are down, power lines are down.
Message of 290 characters follows.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of Grid Down Comms Up at the Workbench. Today we're going to talk about some VHF and UHF antenna options for field portable operations when you do improve your radio performance a little bit over what the standard rubber ducky that most of you guys are familiar with will do. And we're going to take this a few steps further and talk about durability and performance under austere conditions. Because one of the things that we have to bridge the gap in when we're talking about emergency preparedness, particularly long-term grid down situations, longer-term emergency preparedness situations, is our equipment's durability. Because a lot of things made in the amateur radio world really weren't ever made to stand up to continuous use. They are hobby use devices. So we have to balance that. We also have to balance the skills that we have with what we need. So, as we said, many of you guys, you're very familiar with this. We don't need to talk about these anymore, right? Okay. So, I know many of you guys have seen these. A lot of you are probably using them. The Signal Stuff Signal Stick. This is a great addition to your radio. You can stick this on your handheld radio and increase your range and your effectiveness a decent amount. These are a great investment. They're one of my favorite of the extension antennas. I have broken a number of the Chinese antennas over the years, the longer Breeze and Nagoyas and things like that, while out in the woods. They get hung on stuff and they break. These are a bit more rugged, though maybe not quite as pretty, but they do get the job done, and they do work very well. I want to move on and talk about some antennas that are not attached to the radio directly, but can get you some more elevation, because as we know, with VHF, UHF, really any of the non-HF bands, anything that we get higher than we are, the higher the elevation we get, the higher our antenna is elevated, the better performance we're going to get, okay? The line of sight extends and we can do better. So the first antenna that you guys are probably familiar with is the Rollup J-pole antenna. I know probably a bunch of you guys have them. Ed Fong makes a dual band one. This is actually a Ed Fong that I built. They're a pain to build and get right. They're easy to build and get wrong. My biggest complaint about these antennas, while they work, and obviously I have a few of them, big issue that I have with them is they're not that durable. They're great lightweight antenna. You can throw them in your pocket. You can throw them in your backpack. You can take them with, and you can hoist them high up in a tree, and you can get some better performance from your handheld radio using one of these. So I know a lot of you guys have these. I know a lot of you guys have used these. They're a good antenna, but there are better solutions that we are going to look at. Particularly, there are more rugged solutions. Now, not all of these more rugged solutions are dual band, but we don't always need dual band. That's not a requirement a lot of times for our operations. So, Ed Fong style dual band Rollup J-pole, definitely worth checking out. Okay. The next antenna I want to show you guys in the half wave realm, because an Ed Fong is a half wave antenna. It's a half wave antenna with a quarter wave line section matching stub. And if you guys want to learn more about that, I'll do a separate video on it, but I don't want to bore the folks that just want to see antennas. This is a half wave antenna as well. This is a commercially made half wave antenna for emergency communications, made by Larsson There's several. Larsson's changed hands a few times, but you can still find these. They're not cheap. I think current list price on them is like $150 or something, but they are extremely rugged. And that is a requirement a lot of times in a more prolonged grid down situation. You can hang a heavy coax off of these. You can see I have a BNC adapter in here. These unscrew, and it's actually a UHF connector inside. So you can use a barrel connector, connect it straight to a coax with a UHF connector. You can, for quick setups and whatnot, BNC is a much better solution. But this antenna with 25 feet or so of LMR 240 Ultraflex makes a great field solution for an emergency antenna. You just hoist this in the air with a piece of parachute cord or a piece of some other type of string, bank line, whatever, and you get a very rugged antenna that will survive being handled rough. The J-poles don't like to be handled rough. If somebody trips over your coax while this one's hanging up, it's probably going to break the coax, or it's going to break the string holding the antenna up, or it's going to pull all your radio gear into the floor. But this antenna with a handheld radio, or this antenna with a mobile radio, and some coax to get another 20 feet or so, 30 feet in the air, even 50 feet if you really want to hoist it up there, can get you a lot more range in an emergency. Got these things are something most people don't even know exist. The same concept behind this that allows it to not need a ground plane also can work on vehicles with a whip that have plastic roofs. And we'll talk about that in another video coming up eventually here. I'm going to talk about putting antennas on UTVs and things with fiberglass and plastic roofs. But anyway, great antenna. If you're really serious about rugged stuff, this is the antenna I would get. If you've got a search and rescue team you're trying to outfit with something, this is the one that I would get. This is as close to firefighter proof as you're going to get. Okay. Now, we've talked about some maybe of the more commercial antennas. And I got one more I want to show you guys. This one isn't really one you can roll up and put in your pocket, but it's one that I keep in my Go kit because I can put this antenna on a 24-foot painter's pole and stand it up. I can clip it onto a lot of things, and I can have a ground plane antenna that I can pack down easy, and then I can set up. It's fairly lightweight. It's about 20 inches long here as it sets. I'm using a standard NMO Larsson quarter wave antenna. This one's tuned for the middle of the 2-meter band. And we just screw this one on there, hook our ground radials up in there, and tighten them up with an Allen key. And we are ready to go once we mount this thing on a pole and stand it up with some coax. It is really a great little portable ground plane solution. You can also take a different antenna. So you need 2 meters, 70 centimeters. You could use a dual band antenna. If I need a little more range, or I want to put this as a temporary repeater antenna on a mountaintop, I might take a 5/8 wave antenna like I have on the roof of my truck and put it on there to get a little more gain and a little more capability. You do need to make sure you keep a Allen key with this one. I normally have one taped to it, but it's fallen off in the bottom of the box that this lives in. So I will correct that when I put my stuff away after kind of showing this to you guys. But this is a great solution for more of a fixed base type operation. This with a mobile radio and some coax, you know, at a maybe at a bicycle race or a motocross race or something you're providing communication support for where you need a little more range, and you can put up a mast and you don't have anything to hang it from. this is a really cool option because, like I said, with a 24-foot painter's pole, get 24 feet of elevation, and it's something that you can easily haul around in a pickup truck. In fact, I made a painter's pole mount for the hitch of my truck, so I can just stand it up at the back of my truck. So another really cool solution here that you might want to consider having one of these available. Another one, before we get into some more homebrew type options, is a Yagi. Now, I'm sure many of you guys have seen these online. I can't put this thing together and keep it in frame here because I don't have enough room here at the workbench to put it together and show you guys. But this is a 4-element VHF antenna made by Arrow Antennas, and it packs up into this about 24-inch long bundle when you're not using it. And you can take that and put it in your kit and have some high gain. Quick story about this antenna. I used this antenna with this Anytone and this 3-foot long piece of coax right here to communicate with the Mount Mitchell, North Carolina repeater from 128 miles away using a handheld and that antenna. I could hear the repeater where I was, and I was curious if I could get back to it. So I tried and got a 5x9 signal report. So very good tool to have, especially in an emergency when you need to make every watt count. Okay. Now, to kind of wrap this up, I want to show you guys a couple of homebrew antennas, because sometimes in an emergency you need to make your own antenna. Maybe your other antenna gets damaged. Maybe you've got to come up with some sort of solution. This antenna that looks just like a pile of wire is pretty much that. It's a pile of wire. It is a quarter wave ground plane that is made using a couple pieces of wire, a little piece. I used a little piece of plastic for an insulator, but you suspend it from this lead and use a stick. I usually will just cut a twig or something and put a notch in it to spread these guys out at about 45 degrees. Think ground plane antenna we were talking about. And it works great. You can hoist it up in the air. It's very easy to throw one of these together. If you needed to in a pinch, you can just take a tape measure, measure out the wire, put terminals on it, put it up. Once you know what lengths of wire to use, you usually don't even have to check it for VisWire. Ground planes are very broad and they're very forgiving, and they work very well, and they're easy to field, expedient, put together in a pinch. So just, you know, a great little skill to have. And I know some folks are thinking, but it's only got 2 ground radials. Yeah, it does. The historic type of field ground plane like this had 3 radials or even 4. And that's how I'd always built them. And I saw this one in the 2008 edition of the ARRL's Antenna Engineering Handbook and went, only 2? Really? And I put one together and measured it, and it worked great. So three's awesome, but if you need to, you can get by with 2. I can't find it. I'll post a picture of it if I can find it. But I have another one that I soldered together in a class that I just measured it and made it out of solid copper, like the wire you would make an HF antenna out of, hung it up, and it was a very usable sub 1.5 to 1 VisWire across the entire 2-meter band. No tuning needed because it was just, it's simple math and it works. This is another example of that antenna that I showed before. This one doesn't have any coax, it's just got a connector attached to it. Probably looks like a lot of wire because it is. This one is not a 2-meter antenna. This is a 6-meter antenna. This one works great in the VHF low band 6-meter realm, and it works the same way. This one does have 3 radials, so you bushcraft together a triangle that is appropriate sized for the band that you're going to be on, and support it. I'll post some pictures or add a picture, or we'll do another video on this antenna at some point, and I'll show you guys about this. I used this antenna one time to communicate across 20 miles of some incredibly rugged terrain in the Appalachian Mountains, simplex, with 30-watt radios that we couldn't do with 2 meters, but 6 meters worked great. Hoisted it about 35 feet up in the air, and the other station was mobile, and we were able to communicate very, very, very well when 2 meters with 50 watts wouldn't touch it. So you can make these very easily. Again, it just takes, you just got to do some measuring. And I know you guys have probably seen these in the clothing store, that kind of thing. The classic Taylor's tape measure. You can get bags of these things for like $5 on Amazon, or at least you used to be able to. These things are great to just toss in your ham radio go bag deployment kit, because if you need to measure and cut an antenna for one of these bands, this is really all you need. And you know, it weighs nothing, so you're not worried about lugging around a tape measure the way that you would maybe otherwise need to do. So I hope you guys found this informative. I hope that this gave you guys some ideas of things that you might want to put in your deployment bag, or things that you might want to test out and try out on your own. Maybe even introduced you to some products and some items that you have never seen before, kind of like this guy. I encourage you guys to continue to practice and train in the field, work on your skills and improve, and test your gear all the time, because part of remaining ready is having your gear operational and good to go. So with that being said, if you found this valuable, informative, if you think someone else would, please share this video. Please like and subscribe, as the YouTube saying goes, because that helps me get more views and get this useful information out to other people. 7-3, and we will see you on the next video.